Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry and Plurk. Today is Monday, the 18th of March, 2013. This is episode 19, Fangirl Moment. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. So this week has been really good for the most part, although I did get thrown up on twice by Gabriel, so that was kind of not great. But nothing major has happened. And anytime nothing major bad happens, I consider that pretty good. I've been doing a lot of VKNing, and Josh, who does the Sword of a Knitter, SWORD, of a Knitter podcast, mentioned on his last episode how sometimes it's difficult to remember what you talked about in VKN and what you talked about last week on the podcast, and I'm totally having that problem this week. But I'll try to remember. Oh yes, one of the women from the Must Stash podcast asked what bunnyfish meant, where I came up with bunnyfish. And if you have read the credits, you will see that it's spelled differently than the animals bunny and fish. It's BUNNIPHISH. I had a fish in college whose name was Bunny, because I like to name my animals other animal names. So my personal cat, his name is Ducky. But I don't spell anything the way it's supposed to be spelled, so Ducky's name is spelled D-U-K-K-I. This, I think it's just something that me and my friends do. Like, my best friend, her nickname for me is Honey Bunny, and she spells it Hunnibunni. And I call her Baby Girl, and it's BABYGRRL. It's just what we do. So it's not really an interesting story, but I started using Bunnyfish as a character name on World of Warcraft, and then I was using that character when I started Ravelry, and I started using Ravelry because a friend from my WoW guild was like, you should do this, it would be awesome. So I did, so I just kept Bunnyfish, and that's where my name came from. Okay. I don't have a ton of knitting content this week because I didn't really feel like knitting. I'm sure you all have had those weeks where it's like, well, I could knit or I could clean my whole house, which I did 3 or 4 days last week. Yeah. So not a lot of knitting accomplished, but some happened. Let's talk about the Mom's Day Craft Along first. That runs, it started the 25th of February and runs through the 13th of May, 2013. So if you finished or go ahead and finish anything for a mom in that time period, go ahead and enter it. It has to be a RAV sanctioned craft, and it can be something that you start just for this or a work in progress. And it has to be made for a mom. You can define mom however you want. Just because you push a baby out doesn't mean that you are a mom. And just because you didn't push a baby out doesn't mean you aren't. You could make something, for instance, I'm just going to throw this out here. Steve of Dramatic Knits, he is the pet's mom. So that fits. He's defined as mom, so I would count it. Any which way you want to go with it. Into knitting content, I have one finished object, which I'm going to pull a Josh and just not show you. It's secret knitting. It is for Pattern Whisperer. She won the last craft along that I had, which I don't remember what it's called now. And I made her a pair of socks. They're all packaged up and ready to go out to the post office. Hopefully I will get to the post office today after I finish recording, but if not, I will get there tomorrow for sure. They are the star pattern that I designed using Premier Serenity sock weight in colorway Surf on US size 1 2.25 needles. let's talk about things that I can show you. Yay! Okay, so I didn't get very far on my leafy socks, which are the Legolas sock pattern by Claire Ellen from the Fellowship of the Sock book. Let's see, here's the leaf pattern, and here's the KG type pattern. As you can see, they're on the circular right now. I had to pull out the toes of the socks that I was making for Pattern Whisperer, and I decided I would rather just do the toes on double points because I really like double points. So I put this on this needle as a holder, and I'm going to switch it back to double points as soon as I get not lazy and start working on it again. So maybe sometime today, but maybe not until tomorrow. This is using US size 1 2.25 millimeter needles. And this is Madeline Tosh sock in the colorway Lichen. And I take back my statement that that's not true color, because in sunlight that is true color. But most of my experience of knitting on this is in the basement in the dark while I'm VKNing, so the colors are much more subdued. It's much more mossy. That silver doesn't pop as much. But in the sunlight, I did notice that this is pretty accurate. So good job, camera. Bad job, eyes, for not being able to see it right now. Also, I tried them on and they fit very well. They're the 72 stitch size because I have big feet. And I heard that these are kind of tight sometimes. So I'm making a 72 stitch size, and I am 1.5 leaf repeats through the leg. I'm not sure how many you're supposed to do, but they're going to be fabulous. I'm working on the, I hope I didn't just ruin that for you, since I wasn't like, hey, mystery shawl, if you don't want to see it, don't look. This is the mystery knit along for Graphic Infection. It's the shawl that Josh Ricks designed for the Zombie Knitpocalypse. And I will show you where I'm at. This top part is Clue 3. I finished the chart on Clue 3, but did not do the non-charted portion of Clue 3, so I still have to do that.
Mama,
Gabriel,
what's that?
this is me talking to the computer. That's where all my friends are. Do you want to wave?
What's your friends?
My friends will watch this later. Here, come here. Whoa. Do you want to wave? Okay, say hi.
Hi.
Can you go upstairs now, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Careful. Upstairs, please.
Wait.
I'm going to let you look at this again.
Why I want to play?
My cable is way too short to stretch it all out, so you just get that little snippet. I'm using Nooch Fiber in Midtown Sock in the Stomping Grapes and Totally Goth colorways. And I love the way that they're playing together in this shawl. And I'm not quite ready for Clue 4 to come out, but almost, so that I can wear it as not a hat. Although it does make a pretty awesome hat. And it's so smushy. I love this shawl. Did I just lose a stitch marker? Is that what I felt? No. Tricky fish. Thought I felt something fall down. Maybe you saw it. Maybe not. Who knows? One more thing that I'm working on. I did some spinning this week. It's about time. I am spinning mystery fiber. Blue mystery fiber. And this is how much I have on my spindle right this minute. It's a CD drop spindle, which I have to replace the CD on because it's cracked in a couple places and it's like warped up a little. So I should replace that after I finish this project. Maybe before I apply. Anyway, here is the fiber, and it does not want to spin evenly, so I'm not going to spin it evenly. I'm spinning it for Mary Lee, and she doesn't mind if it is art yarn. I think she actually prefers that it be a little bit art yarn because she makes yarn balls. And this is what I have left to spin before I can ply. So, you know, not very long if I just do it, but that would require me to actually spin. And now I don't want to spin. I did do a lot of spinning last week, though. I spun this, and I spun this. And these together are the same weight as this. So this is going to be one ply. This is going to be the second ply. And this is going to be the third ply. I hope to get that done in the next few days so I can set the twist and stuff. And then send my baby girl her birthday package because her birthday is soon. I make no promises that it gets there on time, Mer. You know how we are about birthday things. Might not be there by your birthday, but I just have to finish this and write back to you in the letter and then send it off. So, you know, a week, maybe 2. That's all I have for what I worked on this week. I told you, I wasn't in the zone. I did work on something else, actually. I worked on my sock yarn blanket, which is getting so big and so lovely, and now all I want to do is work on it. And I blame this on Haley, because we were in a VKN, and I started talking about my sock yarn blanket. Haley is from the Hales Knits podcast. Am I saying that right? I hope so. And she is fantastic and adorable. And I mentioned that I was making a sock yarn blanket, and she said, "Oh, I have scraps." And I said, "Oh, I will take your scraps." So sometime I will be getting scraps from her. But now all I want to work on is this blanket because I'm going to be getting scraps. So I just want this to be huge. And it's finally like wrap sized instead of scarf size. It's a little bit big to be just a scarf, a little wide for me. But anyway, do you want to see which colors I put in? I would try to look at the squares, but I wouldn't be able to pick out which ones I did this week because I do them late at night in VKNs because they're mindless. I used Knit Picks Essential, which is discontinued. It's the oak kettle dyed. It's discontinued because they don't do it in the 50-gram balls anymore. They do them in 100-gram balls because people were having a hard time with dye lots, etc., etc. So used this, made a square. I used Premier Yarns Serenity Sock in Violas and Paprika. I am actually going to show you Paprika squares because I don't think you can see how awesome that color is. There's one. And you don't get to see how awesome they work up in this blanket. And there's one. And there's one. That's why I wouldn't know which one to show you because, you know, there's 3 of them right there. I used Plymouth Yarn Company Happy Feet in colorway 1, which is this lovely olivey green color. The ones that I made my Kaimei socks out of. Look at those. Ah, love these socks. And color number, what was it, 16? Yes, 16, which I used to make my sister's awesome dragon scale socks out of. I used this yarn from Liesl to make a square, and I can show you that one because it's the onlyest one in that colorway. Oh, look how bright that is. Look how awesome it looks in the blanket. So I'm really excited to work on the blanket. And that's what I've been doing this week. Really, like when I sit down to knit, I've been working on this. instead of the projects that I feel that I should be working on for other people. But sometimes that's good, right? To work on something just for you. Okay, I'm going to stop playing with it now. That is everything I have for Yarny content. Sorry. I just haven't felt like it this week. But now I'm starting to feel like it more because I finished those socks. So now I really want to start working on my Legolas socks. So hopefully next week there will be actual yarn content. I do have some reading content though. I finished Divergent by Veronica Roth, which was so good. I can't wait to get the second book. I have it on hold at the library, but it hasn't come in yet. So Divergent is about a utopian dystopian society. I really feel that dystopian books are really about utopian societies that just have the one thing that goes wrong, and I'm sure that's what the definition is, but I read a couple articles about utopian books and why they would be boring to read, but I mean really dystopian books are the same thing. It's only one person who notices something is wrong until the big thing turns, and then yeah. Anyway, in your 16th year you take a test and you decide what faction you want to go to. When you go to a faction, if you stay in the same one, you stay with your family and everything, but if you go to a different faction, you leave your whole life behind. Everything is left behind. So it's a really big decision. It's not to be made lightly, and the factions are Amity, which all of the factions happened because they believe that their ideal is what will keep peace between everybody. So Amity believes that, I don't know, I didn't really care for Amity because there weren't any major characters from Amity, so I didn't really care. It was freedom and peacefulness and they're like the farmers and the hearth, they feed everybody. Then there was Candor, which believes that truth will bring about all the peace, and allegedly they can't lie, or they don't lie, or something, which was an interesting concept. Then there was the Erudite, which believes that knowledge will keep the peace. And then Abnegation, which believes that selflessness keeps the peace. And Dauntless, which thinks that bravery keeps the peace. And it was really interesting seeing the characterizations of the characters from the factions that you did get to see. And just like all dystopian books, everything's going great until one thing goes wrong. And then that's where the story starts. It's really, really good. Go read it. If you liked The Hunger Games, this has a similar feel. The characters are about the same age. There's still violence, but there's not as much violence. I definitely think that this first book in the series is really, really good, and you should read it. And is there anything else I want to say about Divergent? No, I don't think so. I will say that if I were still in high school, which was the last time that I was like, oh, you need to read this book and pass it off to my friends and then make my whole group of friends read it, this would be one of those books that I passed around. I finished that, so I started a new book, and this book is by my favorite author. It's called Dark Currents, Angel of Hell, H-E-L, by Jacqueline Carey. And I'm reading it on my Kindle, and I am really technologically challenged, so I don't know how to pull up the cover shot on my Kindle, so I didn't even bring my Kindle downstairs. Sorry. Dark Currents is about, there's this town in Michigan. It's made up, but it's by the sand dunes, and which I visited, and I really like the sand dunes, and I would like to go back. Anyway, there is a town near there, and the underworld exists around there. The idea is that things from different cosmologies exist in this underworld area, and wherever there are hubs is where you'll find ghouls and werewolves and the goddess Hel and ice giants and a serpent goddess. If you've paid attention to anything I've been reading, you know that I like anything with that in it, that otherworldness. So that's fantastic. The main character is half human, half demon. Her father was a incubus who impregnated her mom after her mom had used a Ouija board. I'm not giving anything away because I think that's in like the first 2 chapters. Anyway, there's a crime committed, and it may have been committed by someone in the underworld, which not all of them, not all of the people who are otherworldly live together with humans, but a lot of them do, especially in this town and in other towns like it. So Daisy, who's the main character, which every time I read that name, I'm just like, Jacqueline Carey, why? Why would you do that to me? Why make me read that name? I don't know why I don't like that name. I just don't. I think it's because there were so many other great names in her other books that Daisy just makes me cringe. But whatever. I didn't pick the name. She's the writer. She gets to choose what the names are. Daisy is helping the police force figure out the crime. I'm about halfway through it. I think I'm at 52% according to Kindle, and it's amazing. And I think before I get any serious knitting done, I'm probably going to have to finish reading that book because all I want to do is sit and read that book. Which brings me to my list of the day and also to the heading of the show. I don't have a list. I am just going to fangirl about Jacqueline Carey. In a VKN, Naked Baby. In a VKN this past week, or maybe just 2 weeks ago, I don't know, less than a month ago, I was talking with Melissa of Meltrans Designs, go watch her podcast, about fangirling, and I told her a story about how I fangirled when I was really little. Who else was in there? Haley? Was that you who was in there? Anyway, I told her about how I fangirled at a Red Wings picture signing and how I probably wouldn't fangirl again. Lies. That was not intentional lies, but I totally forgot about Jacqueline Carey. And if I had met Jacqueline Carey in real life, I would fangirl and explode because she's amazing. I at least like everything that she's written, if not love. There are some books that I love and some books that I'm like, well, it was worth my read, but I'm not going to buy it and put it on my bookshelf. I'm going to start from the series that started me reading her, which I started reading in high school, and my daughter, she doesn't keep her shirt on right now. She's going through that phase. So have some baby nudity in your day. I was in high school, and one of my friends read the book, and they were like, oh, you need to read this. Her name was Christina, and Christina is the reason why we all... Hi.
Hi.
Why we all got into Jacqueline Carey. I actually don't have the first book. I forgot. I don't have the first book because I loaned it to somebody and they never gave it back. But even if I did have the first book, the cover was torn off because we all read it, most of us several times. But the second, the first, how do I want to say this? Okay, so there are 9 books that are related, but they're released in 3 trilogies. So the first trilogy is Kushiel's Dart, which I don't have, Kushiel's Chosen, and Kushiel's Avatar. And they follow, I know I'm pronouncing all this wrong because I don't know how to pronounce anything in French at all, period. But I actually watched an interview with Jacqueline Carey where she said the correct pronunciation of things, and she's like, but I don't want people to feel constrained to say it the way I say it. I want them to, like, use your imagination and just say it however you want. So I appreciated that greatly. Thank you, Jacqueline Carey. Not that I ever expect you to watch me and my half-naked child. Sit down. I don't remember where I was, but I know it was these books. So, Trilogy 1 is Kushiel's Dart, Kushiel's Chosen, and Kushiel's Avatar. Yes. Dart, Chosen, Avatar. Yeah. They follow Phaedra Nodalene, who is this woman on the front of both. She is a courtesan. She was trained in the, Court of the Night Blooming Flowers, I think. And she is a spy. And in their culture, the Night Blooming Courts, it's 13 houses of kind of like prostitutes. I mean, they have sex or do sensual things for money, but instead of how our culture views prostitutes, it's highly revered. You're called to this service by the goddess Nama, and each of the 13 houses has a different viewpoint. I'm just going to get all in the mythology of the story right now. Okay, so Terre de Ange, can't speak French, where they live was founded by the Son of God. He was born from, Blood and Tears? It's been a really long time since I've read it, so I don't remember the specific. It's been since high school since I've read it, so I don't remember the specific how he comes about. But he walks on Earth, and Nama, he has 5 or 6 guardians. Kushiel, Nama, and more. I should have written notes, but I didn't because I thought that I wouldn't get into all of this, but now I am. Anyway, Nama she's the woman who travels with them, and there is a part in the history of mythology where they need safe passage or a place to sleep or something like that, and so Nama lays with the king for their safety, and everybody has a different, all of the night courthouses have a different reason why she did it, and those are the doctrines behind the houses. That's what they teach. And it's really, really interesting how those houses, like how they all believe the same thing, but in different ways. I'm sure that doesn't sound at all. Can't think of the word. I'm sure nobody can relate to that. That's what I'm trying to say. So, this trilogy follows her and her consort, kind of. What's this called, Amanda? Send me the word right now. I'm not getting it. Jocelyn. That's her, like, boy thing. And they, along the way, pick up Imriel de la Corcel. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if it tells me. In the next trilogy, which follows him, Imriel de la Corcel. So, the next trilogy is when Imri is all grown up. And it is Kushiel's Mercy, Kushiel's Justice, and Kushiel's Scion. And I only know where the cover to Kushiel's Scion is. And Phaedra really doesn't have much of a part in these books. She's there, but not really. It follows Imri in his search for love and to save the kingdom again. He's got a messed up background. You need to read the books because I don't want to tell you anything because it will ruin everything. Amazing. And then there is a third trilogy, which is only kind of related. Oh, yes, and the people of Terra de Ange, they can trace their bloodlines back to these gods and goddesses, so I mean, not like, I'm the son of this god. Like, it's far back, but everybody has a drop of god blood somehow, or multiple gods. The third trilogy, which I can't find the first one, is Nama's Kiss, Nama's Curse, and Nama's Blessing. And I don't know where Nama's Kiss is, but it takes place about 100 years after Imri's books, and the woman, Morin, she is a descendant of Imri, and she goes to China. So it's really interesting. Jacqueline Carey mentioned in the interview that one of her fans, I think she said, calls her version of history the potluck version. You take a little bit of this and a little bit of this and mix it up, take what you like, leave out what you don't. So they're kind of historical, but I consider them epic fantasy with, some sex thrown in occasionally. In the first trilogy, there's a lot of sex thrown into the mix. Not tastelessly, though. Not just sex for the sake of sex. It's always to further the story because she's a courtesan, and that's what she does. And I love these books, and I'm kind of sad that they're over, but I don't want her to throw in a new character just because, start a new thread in the story just because that would ruin it. They're so good just how they are. So go out, get Kushiel's start small. I'm not saying get all 3 trilogies all at once, just get Kushiel's start. Don't be thrown off by the fact that it's so long. I mean, Kushiel's Chosen is only 750 pages. Only. It's not that long. So get Kushiel's start. Try it. Pick it up from the library. I'm not even saying you need to buy it. But I highly recommend you trying them out. She has also written the Sundering, what is it? Yeah, it's just called The Sundering, and it's 2 books. And Banewrecker than Godslayer. The idea of these books is that it is a war between the gods themselves, the seven shapers. There's a division, and one of them leaves and lives in the world of man, and the others live separated by the ocean. And the books are all about fighting their war and the roles that mortals have in this war between gods. So there are a few mortal main characters, but mostly it's around the seven shapers. It's a really interesting take on what something bigger than people, what they go through, and how they're different but not that different. So, Banewrecker, Godslayer. I found this less enjoyable than the Kushiel and Nama trilogies because the voice was very masculine. Steve always rolls his eyes when I say that, but I feel that, speaking in generalities, so, not everybody does this, but I feel that in general, women tell stories, like female authors tell stories in one way, and male authors tell stories in a different way, and female authors are much more emotional than male authors. In general, that's how I feel. I get much more connected and involved when females write than when males write in general. And I felt like this had a very male voice. I didn't care about the characters as much as I did in this. I don't think this drove me to strong emotion at all. These books, the Kushiel's and Nama's books, had me crying and laughing and just the gamut of emotions. Everything you can imagine happened with these books. Now I want to get Kushiel's Start and read it. I wonder if the library has it. I got these out for Steve because he has not read them. He read the 3 trilogies because I was like, they're so good! And he really, really liked the first one, and he thought the second one was pretty good, and he didn't really like the third one. Just to give you some perspective, but these also really good. I think he's going to enjoy these. He enjoys the more male. Like, for instance, I have tried to read Jim Butcher, but I find him I don't engage in his books. I just don't care what happens to the characters by the end of the books. I read the first 3 or 4 in the Dresden series, and then I was like, okay, I need to stop because I don't care. Like, I don't care what happens to these characters. So, I'm not saying I didn't really care what happened to the characters in book 1 and 2 of the Sundering, but I'm really glad that there's not a third one because I don't know if I would have read it. It's worth the read, but it's not, I don't think it's her best work. She has also written 2 books that go together called Santa Olivia and Saints Astray, and they are about a genetically modified, the daughter of a genetically modified officer, and their genetic modifications basically make them into werewolves, only without the shifting and the fur. They're pretty good. The second one I think was much better than the first one. But it's really interesting. It's about people who live in a compound. The U.S. government has put people into compounds which are not quite as bad as concentration camps, but there's no technology, there's no contact with the outside world. People have food and they can live, but it's not, you can't advance at all. And Loup-Garou, which Loup-Garon, I don't remember. It means werewolf something. She tries to break out in the first book, and then in the second book she's actually out in the world. It's pretty good. If you have something against a little girl on girl, I don't recommend reading those books because Lou has a girlfriend. If you have something against girl on girl or girl on guy or guy on girl or guy on guy, or yeah, if you can't handle like any kink to the sex, don't read. Do not read Kushiel or Nama. Don't read them because there's definitely sex and it definitely happens in multiple different ways. And now she's writing this Dark Currents or this Angel of Hell. I don't know which one is I don't know if Dark Currents or Angels of Hell is the trilogy title. But the demon girl hasn't had sex yet, and I'm halfway through the book. So there's that. She said in the interview that she wasn't specifically trying to have them have sex in the book, them being anybody. So I'll let you know how the book turns out. And I think that is all. Oh, no, that's not all. That is not all. Jacqueline Carey has also written a lot of short stories and anthologies that are really good and don't always have sex in them. So I recommend reading her short stories because they're all really, really good. And I really recommend the first trilogy. Love those books so much. And, okay, right before I started recording, I always check Facebook, Ravelry, and Plurk when I sit down to my computer. So right before I started recording, I checked Facebook. And Jacqueline Carey posted a link to yarn that was dyed based off of the Night Blooming Court. The Houses of the Night Blooming Court. There's an Etsy dyer dyeing yarn that I desperately, desperately want. Desperately want, but I'm not going to get. But desperately want. You should just know that. Because they're gorgeous. Except they're dyed on MCN, and I'm pretty sure that I am allergic to the cashmere in MCN. I know that I'm allergic to Angora in general. And I'm pretty sure that once upon a time I had a cashmere sweater that I couldn't wear because it was itchy, but I can't remember for sure. Anyway, done fangirling. Thank you for hanging out with me for the past while. I hope you made something awesome with your 6 and string, and I hope to see you next week. Bye!